Hello everyone, welcome to the nileshtechnology. This is the video number 22 of a React Basic to Advanced complete series. Okay, so in this video we are going to discuss the React lifecycle, and we see the live examples of how the each and every function is executed, when and how the function is executed. Okay. So I hope you guys follows the each and every videos of this playlist. Okay, so if you have any doubts, if you have any suggestion, so please comment your valuable valuable feedback. Okay, so that's why I just improve that the playlist, and I will add the more and more videos. Okay, fine. So in this video, first we will see that how the ReactJS is work. So basically the lifecycle is divided into the three phases: mounting, updating and unmounting, and there are a lot of methods are here. So constructor, then getDerivedStateFromProps, should component update, render, get snapshot before update, React update DOM and refs, componentDidMount, did update and will unmount. So we'll see all the methods one by one, how and when these methods are called. So first see that the mounting phase. So in that mounting phase, the constructor getDerivedStateFromProps, render and componentDidMount. So these methods are responsible for this phase. So I will give you the one line description of each and every method. So constructor is called before the component is mounted. So getDerivedStateFromProps is invoked just before calling the render method and return an object to update the state. Render only required method which render the element on the web page. Then componentDidMount called after the render method, and it is suitable place to make state update and call the external APIs. We'll see the live example later. So the second phase is the updating. So these methods are here. So getDerivedStateFromProps, again we already see the same explanation is came in here as well. Then should component update it call after the static the getDerivedStateFromProps, and it gives the control over whether or not the render the component. Then render, it render the elements on the web page. Then get snapshot before update, it store the previous value of a state after DOM is updated. And component did update, it called after this method snapshot before update, and it received the previous props and the previous state as argument. Okay, and it can be passed as a third argument to the method. And okay, so this method is called componentDidUpdate on that time. Then there is one more, is that unmounting, only the component will unmount. So it called just before the component is unmounted. Okay, when they are no longer needed in that the application, on that time this method is called. So in the recent React version, there is one more phase is added, that is the error handling phase, and the method is the getDerivedStateFromError and the component did catch. Okay, so I just added these two methods in this video. So this getDerivedStateFromError is called when an error occur in the child component, and the component did catch, this is a very similar method from the getDerivedStateFromProps, but it also provided the extra information about the errors. Okay, so both our methods belongs to the errors. When any child component is trigger some kind of errors, on that time this method is called. Okay, we go to the directly from the VS Code, and we'll see the examples one by one. So this is my VS Code. So inside this VS Code I create a new project. I copy the first tab and hit the npm and start the server, cd22 and npm start. and I change this class code to function to the class component. So this is the file app.js. I just use the class app, it inherit to the react.component, and I use a one render method. Inside that render method I use a one return statement and pass only the hello message. So this structure is belongs to the class component, because all those lifecycle methods is belong to the class component. Okay, so remember this thing. Okay, fine. So till that period we just go to the next thing. Yeah, this is the render method. So whatever you have design onto that the page, so all the components including the HTML and CSS, whatever you have to draw the design into your the page, then that kind of a design is triggered onto that the web page. Okay, so those section is displayed on your the page. Let me see what is the issue. Let me start again. Okay, so till that period I am just adding a one more method, the constructor method. So first before that I just add a one console message like the render method. So see, the server is started here. Okay, let me open the inspect, so we'll get the more idea so how the methods is called one by one. So render method, let me save it. So render method is called when we focus about the mounting phase, so render method is here. Okay, so let me add the constructor. So inside that I just add the like the constructor. So it it gives one error, because when you add the any constructor in your the class component, so the super method is must be the call. This is the first statement of your the constructor. So that's why here is there a must call the super constructor in derived class before using the any statement into that the constructor. So for that here just use the super and pass the props of the current class. So let me save it, refresh. So constructor called, then render method. So see here, constructor, then render method. So if you want to initialize something before the render method, then you can initialize all kinds of variables inside the constructor. Okay, so let me define one state inside the constructor. So before that, so I'm just going to add the getDerivedStateFromProp, getDerivedStateFromProps method, and this method must be the static, because that method is not called automatically. If you want to get the access of that the method, then the static word need to be defined. Okay, then just add one more console. So let's see, get some warning, get derived state from props, but its initial state is undefined. This is not recommended. Initial state by assigning the object is this dot state in the constructor of the app means that. So see, this method is called in here. Let me again refresh. So see, constructor, then this method, and then render method. So this method is only that time of beneficial when you define the any kind of a state. So in this program there is no state, right? So now I'm going to define a one state value. So this dot state equal to name Nilesh. So I just define a one state. Let me save it. So see, the error is gone. So see, in this method the get derived state from props. Okay, so So this method is used when you define the any state in the current application. So when we define in this state, then that method is useful. Now I just print here the state value. Okay, so this dot state dot name. So let me print the name. So hello Nilesh. See, hello Nilesh. Now the state is updated. So when the state is updated, you have to return something inside this method. So that's why the one warning is generated. So for that period, I just used here return null. You need to return something. Okay, so I just use the return null. That warning is gone. Okay, so get derived state from props and rendered method. Let me modify the state value. So copy, paste this dot set state, and I just change the value technology. Okay, let me refresh, save. So some error is coming here. First try to understand the error. Cannot set the property of undefined in a set state. So okay, fine. I think this is not beneficial to the method. Let me remove it. We need to define in another method. Okay, so refresh. Okay, fine. So in this method there are the two parameters, props as well as state. If you want to print the props or the state value, you can print it in here directly. Now we focus on another method, constructor getDerivedStateFromProps render, and this is the last method, componentDidMount. So let me add one thing in here, componentDidMount. So first let me add one console. Okay, and let me save it. Refresh. See, constructor getDerivedStateFromProps render method and componentDidMount. So all these four methods is called one after another. Okay, now let me change the some value of the state using the set state. Copy, paste this dot set state. Okay, I think our syntax is wrong on last time. So this dot set state, oh, I think bracket is wrong. Okay, name equal to, change the name. So refresh, save it. So see, when you have to change the any state value inside the componentDidMount, then see, first constructor getDerive render and componentDidMount, these four is called one by one. So when you try to change the any state value, the next time these two methods is called getDerivedStateFromProps as well as the render method. Okay, and on the second iteration time, the name is changed from the Nilesh to technology. Okay, so if you want to see the state value, so I just print the state, save it. So see, getDerivedStateFromProps, the state is name Nilesh, and the letter getDerivedStateFromProps, the name is the technology. So like this way, these four methods is called, and when performing the any updation operation from the state, the next time the getDerivedStateFromProps and the render method is the called. So when we focus on that the updating phase, so getDerivedStateFromProps, that method is available. So this is the some spelling mistake. So this method is not yet defined, this method is not yet defined, and did update is also not yet defined. So that's why, so for updating phase, the getDerivedStateFromProps and the render, these two methods is called one by one. Okay, now we focus on the another method, should component update. Okay, so go to the VS Code, paste should component update. Okay, and this is not required. Save. Got the some warning, return undefined. Okay, here is also returning something. We just add a return true or false. Make sure to return true or false. So see here, so we can't return the null or anything. By default return is the false. Let me add the return is the true. Refresh. So see, focus on these 3 lines after updating the state. So get derived state from props, then should component update, then render method. Okay, so these 3 is called one by one. Now let me add the get snapshot before update, this method. I think this is similar to the get derived state from props. Get snapshot. Get snapshot before update. This is also static. Let me check. I think it's working fine. Get snapshot before update, and here the props and the states are the previous value. So prev props, prev state. Okay, so let me add the prev state and this method. Fine, let me save it, refresh, run it. So one warning is generated. This component defined the get snapshot before update only, should be used with the component did update. Okay, fine. So I think component did mount is here. We still not yet define the component did update. So let me define the component did update like this. Okay, component did update. This is not required. Fine, let me clear everything and refresh it. So see, these 4 methods is for the mounting phase, the first time rendering phase. Constructor get derived state from props, render, and component did mount. And next another, this one method is belongs to the updating phase, because we are updating the state value. So on time of updating the state value, so first one is the get derived state from props method is called, then should component update is called, then render method is called, then get snapshot before update is called, and here we also get the some previous state value. It store the previous state as well as previous props value before updating. Okay, and last one is the component did update, so that is the called. So remember one thing for this method, so 2 parameters is the previous props value and previous states value, and for this method get derived state from props, here we get the current props and the current state value. Okay, so I hope you understand this to this mounting and the updating phase. Okay, now I am just going to show you the one more thing. So when there are the multiple components coming from the another files, and when the any props or the child changes is happen, then how the life cycle is works. Okay, so for that should component update. So should component update is work on a 2 direction. If the next prop is not equal to the current, then it take the props value, or next state is not equal to current, then it take the state value. If both condition is true, then component will render. If any one condition is false, then component will not re-render. So means that component should update is trigger depending on that the condition. Okay, so let me show you the one brief example. So here I'm just going to create a two components. Right click, one is the counter1 dot js. We just increment the some counter value. Okay, so this class is also belong to the class component. So RAFC, and let me convert class counter1 extends react.component, or you can directly use the component because we import the React in here. Okay, component, and here there is one render method, and inside that render let me move this counter1 directly in here. Okay, so component, here we need to import the component. Yeah, fine. So counter1 is ready. Let me call the counter1 directly inside the one more file, counter file, counter.js, and one more file, counter2.js. So we call the counter1 and counter2 in a counter file. So RAFC, so main counter is okay, so here we just need to call the counter1 and counter2, so it's not required. So is this the function or class? It's not need to required. So counter1 I just copy as it is to counter2, just change the class name, class2 counter2, and export the counter2, save it, and here counter2. Okay, and let me add the both counter in a app.js. So inside the app.js, let me comment everything apart from the render. So I just move the render method at the top and comment everything, all those functions, and inside this return just call the counter. So we got the counter1 counter2 value, counter1 counter2 value. Okay, let me go to the counter1 program. So inside the counter1, I just want to print the some props value, but before that, here in the counter we just define the one common value in here, and we pass the counter value from counter component to counter1 component. So how to pass those values? So let me define a one value using the state const cnt comma set cnt. Here we use the use state, and by default value is that the 0. Okay, then we define a two methods, const increment 1. Okay, and in that method we use a set cnt method, and whatever the previous cnt value, we just increment the value by 1. So we just use the set cnt method. So similarly we define a one more counter. So this is the counter1 counter2, counter1 counter2. We use a counter1 counter1, and one more method is the increment 2 we use the counter2 for set count2. So two methods and two states are different. Okay, they are the independent to each other. Let me save it, everything. Now we just pass the method to this, the counter1. So for the value equal to, okay, we pass the counter value. So cnt1 here, cnt2 for here by props, and the another one is that the on click method. So I just used one more div. Same div, and we use the on click event. So when you click on that the counter1 value, then on that time we use the increment1 function. So we pass on click by props. So this counter1, counter2, these two props value and the on click, it goes to this component counter1 and counter2. Okay, so inside the counter1, I just define one console.log rendering method counter1. Okay, just for testing purpose which method is now rendering, and here the counter1 is, okay, let me print the value. So here get all the values from props. So this dot props dot counter1, this dot props dot value. So it's my the props name is that the value, so that value is coming from here. Okay, and let me add one more button here, button click me, and here we are going to set the on click event. So this is also called this dot props dot on click. So on click is coming from here. Okay, now these are the two return statements. So we are use the one fragment or a one div. So it's look like this. Same thing, same render method I just copied to the counter2. The difference is only here the render counter2 is called, so counter2 is 0. I think everything is same. Okay, now rendering method counter2 and this is the rendering method counter1. So these two components are different. These two components is called for this one common method, one common component counter. So here we define a 2 div and the counter1 is called with props value those, and here we increment the value for counter1, value for counter2, and both counter have a two different state. Now let's see what happened. Let me refresh this. Okay, the first time rendering, so the two counter1, counter2, these two methods is called. This is okay. Now when we click on that the first counter click me button, click me, so that counter value is incremented. But see here, both rendering method is called. See again, both rendering method is called. See again, both rendering method is called. Okay, let's see again for click to counter2. Means that when I click on either counter1 button or counter2 button, then both methods is called. So when we talk about the performance issue, so this is not a good. So when you are doing the any event handling effect on a one component, then why the other component is called, right? So to avoid that kind of a situation, we have one solution with the method should component update. With the help of this method, we can avoid this multiple component calling problem. So how we avoid this problem? Let me go to the counter one, and inside that I just add a one method should component update. So in that method, the let's see here, should component update, this method is here. So for that method, the two parameter is important, like the next props and the next state. These two parameters is get automatically. So here we check the condition. If this dot props dot value, which is not equal to next prop dot value. So before that, first see what are the values of we already know that the props dot the value is the incremented value 1 2 3 4 5, but the next prop value, what are the next prop value? Okay, so let's see what is the next props value and the next state. Let me print it here. Rendering method counter 1, just set the counter 1, next props is the next props value, and next state is the next state value. Okay, let me save it. So refresh. Okay, so when we click on here, return undefined. Okay, fine, we need to return something. So return true. So see, the counter value is 2, now the value 2 is incremented, and this second one is that the next state. So onto that the state we already state is the undefined, so we got the on click and the value, right? So I think we are not set the any kind of a state, so I think the state is not required to define it. So next props, this one, and so when the so what are the next props value? So next props value is the 2, right? And the current value is also the 2. When the both values are equal, then we want to render this component, first component, not for the other component. So when we return the false, click on it here. So this is called, and the render method counter to example is called. See, again when I click on that, the click me. So this is not called next time, because next time we pass the return is the false. So every next time this component is not get rendered. So that's why I'm just going to add here the one conditions. This dot props dot value is not equal to next props dot the value if both are the not equal. Okay, if both are the not equal, then that component rendering is not required. But both are the same, then on that time we want to render this component. Okay, so like this way I just need to add this function in counter to here as well. Okay, so means that counter to value get matched to that the props value. Okay, so if this counter value is matched, then render this component. But if this value is not matched, then don't render this current component. Okay, let me save it, refresh, run it. So first time the both component is rendered, this is okay. So when I click on first, so see the counter only the first component is rendered. Second time only the second component is rendered. So like this way we use this method should component update to improve the optimization performance, and also to when to render the component and when to not render the component. On that situation, this method is also helpful. Okay, fine. I think let me add one method like component did unmount. Component will unmount console.log okay. Oh, this is the normal counter program. Let me move this to the app.js. Now let me save it. So now the component did unmount is not yet called, but when I remove this counter from here, okay, and let me save those changes, like I just passed the hello, save those changes, then component will unmount is called. Component will unmount is called only that time when the component is no longer needed in your application. So see, I just remove this component, then on that time the will unmount is called. So I hope you guys understand each and every methods, and I hope you like the video, and you just covered all kinds of concepts like the methods when the methods is called one by one. Okay, if you have any doubts, if you have any question, please comment in your comment box. Okay, and from the next video we'll see from the React hooks use effect. Okay, so please like and subscribe this channel, and we'll see you on next video. Bye bye. Thank you.